This sighting occurred early one morning in the state of Arkansas. A man was headed to his family's property. He hadn't been there in years because his deceased parents had been in a nursing home. His whole purpose for the journey was to review the estate and decide for himself whether he was going to keep the property or sell it. He told me the roads were so bad that he really should have been in a four-wheel drive vehicle instead of a two-wheel drive car. The road was almost non-existent in places. It was rutted and washed out, and he had to drive really, really slow. The sun was up, but he still had his headlights on. The road made a very sharp hairpin turn, and he was surprised to find a small, hair-covered creature in the middle of the road. His first thought was, it's a bear. So he tapped his horn to get the bear to move out of the road. Then out of the side of the road burst a female Sasquatch. She was massive. He said this whole thing took place in 3 steps. In one step, she was in the middle of the road. In the second step, she did something so amazing. Instead of pulling the baby to its chest like we would, she turned her huge left hand palm side down, scooped the baby up, and then slung it onto her back. And the baby, in response, grabbed the mother's shoulder hair and then drew its knees up underneath itself. In the third step, she was off the road, heading down an embankment and into a dry creek bed. He said this happened in the blink of an eye, and he was absolutely shocked. He slammed on the brakes, threw the car into park, opened the door, then stepped out of the car and stood there with his mouth open. He was listening for any sound that would validate what he just saw. And he did. He heard them. He heard the sound of rocks as she moved into the creek bed. He was trying to wrap his mind around what he'd seen when suddenly he hears this dink, like a rock hitting his car. He turns around to see a male Sasquatch standing, literally just 4 feet away from his back bumper. This thing was wide across the shoulders, 8 feet tall and thick. It looked right into his eyes. At first its expression was annoyed and angry, but in an instant it opens its mouth and screamed, roared at him. He dove into his car, shoved it into drive, and peeled out of there. Now this road is a one-way in and one-way out road, and he's heading deeper into the property. How is he going to get out of this? So he drives 200 yards or so. He's still in shock, not knowing what he's going to do. He stops the car to figure it out, but within a few seconds, it's being pelted with rocks. So he drives further into the property, hoping the distance will de-escalate the situation and buy himself some more time, yet not knowing in that moment what was going to happen. Was the Sasquatch following him? Was it going to confront him again, or possibly worse? He waited there for a while. It seemed like forever to him. He got the car turned around and eventually gathered up the courage to drive towards the area of the encounter, looking all the while from them. He sped through, and he made it. And by the grace of God, the Sasquatch allowed him to leave the property without incident. He did not ever go back.